Okie doke. Welcome back to Natural Awakening, which is the name of this podcast. Maybe I should change it at some point. I don't know. But I'm here today with North. I don't actually know your last name.
Burn.
North Burn, whom I met through Daniel Brotman, a friend who's been on retreat with North. I'm not sure. How do you and Daniel meet?
Actually, at IMS
Uh huh.
3 month retreat.
Right. Were you co-retreatants
We were
or
co-retreatants, and I'll always remember before we went into retreat, we were all sitting around having lunch, and Daniel's very funny, and he said there was this awkward lull in the conversation. Nobody knew each other, and out of the silence, he said, "So, who else is excited not to cook for 3 months?"
Daniel's good at yeah.
Yes.
Hello, Daniel. If you watch this. So we're here together in San Francisco, which is nice. First time I've been able to record live with anybody. Um, and I guess I wanted to bring you on to talk about Boundless Refuge and also a bit about your bio, your story. Because well, one, there's really not that many places you can go on 3 month full time retreat.
Mm.
There's very few outside of Asia, and even in Asia, there's places, but there's compared to I don't know the need, maybe not the demand. um, and when I heard that that was something that was happening or out there available to folks, um, well, I should probably meet this person at some point. So here we are.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So maybe let's start with your story. What brought you to Dharma, to meditation?
Mm-hmm.
Very open and ended question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a long story.
We got the
My
time.
my first thought was to start with this image of a jewel in the heart, which I dropped out of school when I was about 15, which was unusual. I was a pretty good student, and my family encouraged me to, do well and stuff. And all I could do to explain this was that I was following a jewel in my heart, and I didn't know where it was going to take me or what it was even about. Um, but a couple years later, yeah, it was a very difficult time for me and for my family. This after I dropped out of school, kind of an existential crisis for a couple of years, and then by some happenstance, I went in and heard a talk by a well-known Dharma teacher, Gil Fronsdal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know anything about Buddhism, didn't know anything about him. And as soon as I saw him, I thought he sees the same jewel and he's found a way to express it. And it seems like he's talking about ethics. Like there's something about ethics and something about confronting suffering, this path of meditation that just totally struck me in that moment. And I was about 17 then. And yeah, that really, uh, it's not like I went and bowed down to him and took refuge in that moment, but something shifted in my heart, and then I just naturally found myself like the center of gravity shifts, and then the river goes in a different direction. Within a couple within a couple of years, I was, or within a few couple years, I was went and lived in my family's summer cabin for like 2 years, and it was kind of this
Solitary.
yeah, solitary, very formless, kind of wild. My mom said I went feral. Um, and
In a good way, I hope.
yeah, in a good way. People kind of could tell that something important was happening. The way I described it was like it felt like a dirty rag got put into a bucket of water.
No.
There was some kind of purification that happened mostly from being alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being able to feel parts of myself in time and space that just couldn't come out with people all around, and having to kind of put up these masks. And so I felt something very whole, very beautiful and intriguing there. And then started to follow a little course of like online meditation, and had some of my first experiences with concentration, which at that time were just like, oh,
Whoa. I can focus my attention and whoa.
yeah, whoa, and really, and even some spontaneous insights
Yeah.
that left me feeling like I've got to explore this more.
Sure.
And so I tried to I remember I thought I'm going to sit a retreat, and I had made a little schedule for myself, and like 2 minutes into the first period of meditation, I think I'd like a cookie. and,
as,
and I
as
thought,
as as it happens,
and I
yeah.
thought I needed sangha. So I signed up for retreats and then spent most of a year on long, intensive insight meditation retreats.
Was that IMS Spirit Rock?
Both,
Yeah,
both.
yeah.
And, I was just so inspired to see all these other teachers than Gil, uh, what the practice had done for them was just, young and totally dove into the practice. And
How
it,
old were you then when you?
yeah, I think 22,
Yeah.
22.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it's through that year of intensive practice really changed my whole understanding. And part of that was opening up this really kind of wildly huge sense of compassion. The Bodhisattva vow
Right.
just arose through the mindfulness, through the openings.
At any point did you take those vows formally in a context, or was it just you read, you heard, and then yep, that's yep.
My whole
Locked
my
in.
it was really like from the depths it erupted. Like
Yeah.
I was just thought I'm gonna go maybe develop a little more mindfulness, learn some of the teachings, but
And then
yeah, it really was.
yeah.
And as you say that, I think in many ways my whole practice has been working like going at things from the opposite direction. Same thing.
Backing in, riding the ox backwards.
Yeah, yeah, right. It's a beautiful dance, and and then it was, and then I really wanted, I was always continuing my practice, but the motivation shifted to how does my practice benefit others, and I went and studied with many teachers, lived in Soto Zen monasteries,
Was
met
that
with
here in like at San Francisco Zen
San
Center?
Francisco Zen Center, Green Gulch, Tassajara
Yep.
for years, and sat more retreats along the way. Uh,
Again at IMS Spirit Rock. That yeah.
yeah, yeah, kind of. So I kind of have my foot in both worlds.
Which is great. I mean, cross lineage training,
It's
big fan of.
yes, and
Can be a little confusing.
yeah, that's good. Confusion's good. Confusion is good. We were talking about koans before we press record, but confusion can be a wonderful way to find out what can I stand on? What do I really
What do I really know?
know? Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Maybe that's one of the
Maybe,
benefits.
maybe nothing.
Maybe that's one of the benefits of the modern world too. Like maybe on some collective level, we're grappling with not just being able to be absorbed in one worldview, but actually
Right.
having to find something that can transcend those. But anyway, so I that was a gradual purification and learning and just like being tempered. That was like I got
Forged.
yeah, and then just being tempered slowly and um during years of that residential practice and working with these different elders and eventually both decided to or felt inspired to step into teaching and started organizing retreats, but also was invited into teaching and went and served as the resident teacher of a hermitage in South Africa, which was kind of
How'd that happen? I saw that in your bio. I'm
over
like, how?
over the
How
years.
did that happen?
Yeah, I'd gotten to know Tanisara and Kitty Saro, who
Oh,
are
okay. Yeah.
they yeah
I don't know them personally, but
yeah they studied with Ajahn Chah or
yeah.
monk and nun,
Yeah.
now are well-known Vipassana teachers, and that was a strand that I've since abandoned, but I got into climate justice and Tanisara was into that as well. So we got to know each other over the years, and I was actually at Tassajara and a poem spontaneously came into my mind that said, leave the this wasn't quite what it said, but it said, leave the monastery, go to a mountain and teach.
Yeah.
That was part of it. And I just cleaned my room, packed my bags, threw my oryoki bowls off the top of the mountain,
Yes.
and walked out 17 miles in the middle of the night in the snow and left a note
as you
and left a note for the abbot. Not recommended.
Sometimes these things just happen.
Sometimes if it's a pattern, don't look at it. But it was just a one-time thing, and it was really the right decision. And it turned out that during that time they'd been praying with this wonderful shaman named Mandaza for like a new group of people to come to this center in Africa. So who knows? Maybe the prayer came and dropped into my mind. It was out of nowhere.
Happy accident.
And we connected, and they invited me out there, and it was great. Anyway,
And then
And then the
after that,
pandemic,
and
and
pandemic,
then
that happened while you were there,
it
or
happened at the very
the
tail
very,
end of it.
yeah.
And I was on the last flight out of South
Wow.
Africa, just by accident, and went up back up to that little cabin on the island, summer cabin, and weathered the pandemic there. Um, and actually, yeah, just it was a very, again, a very spontaneous, informal time of soul searching and retreat, and realized that what was really calling to me all these years was to teach a long retreat.
Sure.
And that's what I'd been aiming towards. And
Facilitate the same kind of practice that you
that had
found.
helped me
Yeah,
the most.
that makes sense.
And so, in conversation with my closest teacher who supported that, I
And
decided
who
to
was
just
that at that time, or still is?
still is Greg Scharf, who's not that well known, but
Yeah.
he's one of the most senior teachers in the IMS community.
Sure.
And teaches the long retreats and things
Gotcha.
like that. He's wonderful. And yeah, so I tried the first one. The first one had 3 people, one from New Zealand. I mean, they like found me online and were
Right.
crazy. I told one of them, like, if I were you, I wouldn't do this. Like, why are you? But they trusted me, and they really, we had Zoom meetings beforehand, and they could feel that I had something that they actually wanted,
Sure.
and they trusted that.
They trusted that they could learn from you in that kind of context.
And they came out and camped in the forest, and we cleared the furniture out of the cabin and did this intensive retreat for 3 months straight. And it went beautifully, and just decided to continue. We did the next one there. And then in time, the third year, we found this new center in Mendocino, which we've been growing into.
Wonderful. And is that well, I can ask details about like the administrative stuff later, just because I'm curious, but probably not that relevant to listeners. Yeah, so I'm curious, are you running those retreats? Thank you for sharing that biography.
Hope it
I hope
wasn't
it's
too
inspiring.
long.
No, 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 no. I
No.
hope it's inspiring for folks to know. I mean, that kind of transformation through engagement with intensive practice is possible. And maybe maybe you could say actually a little bit about the what comes from that practice in however much you want to speak about that.
Oh, that's nice. In so many ways, I don't want to I really don't want to de-inspire anyone, but from my experience is that in many ways I'm still the same weird person.
You mean you're not a perfect Buddha shining with love and light 24/7 and knowing appropriately what to do in all circumstances at all times?
But at the same time, there is that what you just described also is what opened up, not as a view. Oh, I am
Sure.
this, but this.
That would be a fabrication.
Yeah, there's a you just words, but there is an unformed dimension of our mind that is that Buddha, that
Sure.
is that. So I think of my practice just in terms of if I got anything, it's nothing.
Yeah. Well, getting is not.
It's not about that.
No.
And you understand that, which is so cool to have this conversation with you. But it's this, Ram Dass calls it loving awareness. That's simple, right? Some way that can hold everything that we are and everything that this world is and other people are, and that whole thing that goes beyond our conscious fabrication. And that is like, I'm still
Priceless.
testing it, but it's priceless. Yeah, I don't know anything else like that, and that's.
Well, I mean, yeah, there is no thing like that.
There is no thing like that. Yeah,
no things.
Yeah. And so what's in that? It's patience. It's great patience. There's generosity. There's wisdom. There's metta.
Some of the paramitas in the Brahma-vihara.
Yeah, so some of these qualities that we describe, or sometimes we just make a statue of the Buddha, which speaks to that these are all words and symbols for something that goes to the ground of our being, or however we want to talk about it.
Yeah, that can't be directly communicated, but can be intimated, I would say, perhaps. That's been my experience working within the Zen and, kind of those transmission traditions. It can't be adequately captured, described, boxed in, and yet it can be intimated,
resonated with, sparked,
relaxed into,
realized,
recognized.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, that's what vitalizes. Forget what your original question was, but that's what
I do too.
vitalizes. Whatever that is, that's what vitalizes. That's like I think of that as the mystical core, and
The jewel in the heart of the lotus
the
to
jewel in the heart of the lotus.
return
And
to.
so retreat really is maybe not the only way, but it turns up the heat on the stove, to resonate with that understanding, that realization, make it your own. And the less, if we don't make it our own, then we either don't we don't realize it's important, or we cling on to ideas, views, symbols. But we can make it our own through the practice of mindfulness and yeah,
Thorough practice.
yeah,
Yeah,
thorough
in all
practice.
of the forms that that takes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, in all of the forms that it takes. That's right. It does not have to be retreat, but retreat is a wonderful.
Retreat is really
Yeah,
good. Highly
yeah.
recommended.
retreat retreat is a wonderful gateway. It's like a portal or an initiation, um, to remember. Yeah.
Remember the sati, mindfulness, originally, means to recollect, to
Mm,
literally to recollect.
nice.
Remember. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
Fun. I like etymology.
It's funny doing this like I feel audience talk to each other.
Um, so maybe speaking of retreat, what form does that take? Entering the formless, what's the form
Yeah.
that takes in terms of schedule, teaching? How does that come together? Are you pretty much just doing what they do at IMS and Spirit Rock, or your own spin? What's
It's my own spin on this ancient practice of sitting, and I would say meeting
Yeah.
is also important, like a one-on-one meeting with me. So there's and meeting with each other, even though there's no talking during the retreat. Um, there is one little form of bowing to each other when you cross paths with each other outside of the main area.
Oh, wonderful! Like every time you cross paths, just
Yeah, bow
wonderful.
to each other, and sitting together. We follow the schedule together, so there's a kind of collective samadhi
Hmm.
that develops. So there's that meeting, but mostly I'm thinking of meeting with me and then sitting a lot. So sitting a lot, like I would say it's a little more intense than the IMS retreat is for most people. It's kind
Hmm.
of like if you strung 12 sessions together.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So, like, when you say everyone's sitting together, is it like everyone is at every sit? Is it that
Yeah,
structure? Yeah.
yeah, and there's like a
Yeah.
meditation hall manager, and
Yep.
you let them know if you
Yep.
can't be there, they'll find you.
Sure. Yep. Gotcha. Yeah. So, like session.
Yeah.
And what I'm, because I love retreats and I'm a kind of a retreat format geek. I want to know these details. Like what's the wake up time, and then like hour by hour, can you take us through a day of retreat, for
Yeah.
those who may not be so familiar or might be interested in coming to join it sometime?
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, check out the website if you're
That info
interested,
is there.
because that info is there, and
We can talk about it
I have a
afterwards.
disorganized mind, so I'll just botch the schedule. Basically, you get up really early, and someone comes running, a demon with a wake up bell comes
Yes. No,
running.
taking some of the Zen forms.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my favorite job in
Me
the
too.
monastery.
Me too. That's interesting.
We had this big bass drum that you would start things, boom, 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 and then you run through the halls with the bell. Well, not run,
Mm.
but swiftly walk through the halls.
Mm.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, it is the best job.
It is the best job.
Yeah, I knew someone who died doing that.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
really? Yeah,
side note. He woke
that's
everyone
good.
up, and then right as he was like walking in to sit, dead.
That's a good way to
Good way
go.
to go.
Yeah.
um, and there is something beautiful about that. Anyway, so uh, you wake up really early, you get up, you do a bunch of sitting and chanting, and also we incorporate some pranayama
Uh-huh.
practice, which is different,
Sure.
which is really helpful. I've
Yeah.
experimented like taking people off of that,
Right.
and everyone just becomes visibly more neurotic
Yeah.
in the interviews. And then when we go back on the diet of the pranayama, and everyone just like the color comes back into their face, they start giggling,
Yeah.
and laughing.
It loosens things up, really helps things flow.
People are crying like for the whole first month. Most of these, mostly men, were like weeping in the morning through the pranayama. It just touches something the sitting doesn't usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's optional too, so that's not for everyone, but most people find it helpful.
And what tradition are you taking those forms of pranayama from?
Oh, I wish you hadn't asked that. It's it's something that I actually learned from Tanisra
Uh-huh.
in Africa, and she learned it from someone named David Elliott,
Uh-huh.
and it's unclear where he learned it from.
Uh-huh.
But she trained with him,
Sure.
and I was really impressed by it. It really helped me. I took it on
Sure.
as a daily practice.
I mean, there are forms of psychophysical exercise which have been, rediscovered and iterated. Like the human nervous system, in a, there's diversity and variation, but it is the human nervous system, and you can do things with the breath. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes.
there are unbroken lineage traditions of that, and then people, who knows?
This is one of those things that I just sort of dropped in,
Yeah.
and it seems to still be helpful. Um, and so, yeah, and then we have breakfast. So the whole retreat is in silence. And then we have breakfast, and it's kind of a formal style, kind of like oryoki, but not in the
But not quite
meditation
so.
hall. Exactly. And, so there's little chants sprinkled throughout the day. Some people have jobs. There's like a little work
Service
period,
jobs. Yeah.
service jobs. These are quiet, solitary positions.
Conducive to continuing in the practice.
Totally. And then it's just a lot of sitting. There's a couple like 2 hour sits each
Mhm.
day, so some long sits.
Mhm.
Um,
And how strict is the no moving rule, if there is a rule?
I think I mean I encourage people maybe like 20% less than a Zen monastery.
Sure. So
So
still encouraged not to move.
I encourage not to move. It really helps.
Yeah.
It really helps. There is this mind-body connection, and there really have been time and again people, often the ones who are squirming the most. And at some point, I might just say, you might just make a gentle determination to sit more still, and something just starts flowing or opens up that
Yeah.
the shifting was really representative of something in the mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strengthens this commitment to be with experience.
Yeah.
And so that can be really supportive. And we just continue like that. Often, more in the beginning of the retreat, we'll give more meditation instructions and unfold the Satipatthana Sutta as a core
Is that kind of the
text.
foundation? I mean, I imagine
That
you
is,
teach
yeah.
lots of methods,
Yeah,
but
no, I teach that. That's the core method, and then very much woven in with like Zen stories
Mhm.
and more non-dual understanding.
Mhm.
But I love teaching that as a core text every year because it really is this, for those who don't know, it's this meditation, core meditation manual that so many of the like the insight tradition is based off of. They take it as a core text. It goes through the body, mind states, pretty much everything you can experience and take as different fields of attention,
Right.
of mindful awareness.
That's a good way of phrasing it.
Yeah, so it's a good framework to focus attention on your present moment experience in a relaxed yet alert way, which is meditation.
Relaxed alertness.
Yeah, and as you do that, you naturally settle, you naturally notice ways that you haven't been doing that and develop a fuller attention, and then you start to see more clearly, and insight flows more and more. So that's basically how it goes. The non-dual understandings get woven in as well, and it's been fun to see how these two texts can or two understandings can kind of dance.
Is that mostly coming from the Zen training you've done, the non-dual side of things?
It's Zen gave me a language for what felt deepest,
Sure,
in
yeah.
my own experience,
Yeah.
which was really valuable. I'm not a scholar, but the Prajnaparamita sutras that the Heart Sutra comes from, and which we chant every day, they're like starting at the end.
Yeah.
Or what do they call it? Like fruition.
Yeah, taking the fruition as the path.
It's more in that understanding, coming from this not self perspective, and the practice is entering that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that can sort of dance with these meditative practices that come out of the Satipatthana Sutta, which help settle the mind, clarify, develop more concentration, mindfulness, and understanding, which kind of ready the system to open to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where we were going.
I don't either.
But well, that makes sense. So we were basically, that's what we do for 3 months, is
Yeah.
meditate and clarify our understanding through sitting and meeting.
I don't know. Sounds pretty good, guys. Maybe you should go.
Yeah. It's really, what did you say before? The need there. I think so many people would benefit. It's
Yeah.
not for so many people though, would benefit, but the demand is way lower than it should be, in my view.
Well, yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
who knows, right? But
I try to avoid shoulds, but really it is,
It's
I
lower
think
than
we
it
share
should.
this sincere opinion that almost every human on Earth would benefit from this kind of extensive, intensive practice.
Yeah,
I almost want to say everyone, if the conditions were right.
if the conditions are gentle enough.
Yeah.
The phrase comes to mind. I forget from where, but just to spend a little time alone in one's room,
Yeah.
which is always touched me. Like there's so much benefit from a little bit of solitude, maybe not too much, but enough to go inward and reflect on your experience that nourishes something in us. And more I think of like the deepest insights of practice as something that mostly are very way more available than maybe is commonly thought.
Seems so to me.
Yeah, nice. What have you seen that makes you think that?
uh, Being in different practice contexts, the kind of prevailing attitude that I encountered in many places from some teachers, but mostly practitioners, was this thing awakening, is that even real? Or well, that's not for little old me.
Yeah, that's called confusion.
And no.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And yet, it might, I mean, it might be an interesting thing to just touch on, which is, it's like I said in the beginning, it's like the way I see it, it's like nothing. It's just to open, just in being. Suzuki Roshi said, just to be alive is enough. That's an expression. It's not about an attainment.
Most of us are doing a heck of a lot more than just being alive, though.
Yeah, 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 yeah. There's exactly there's being alive with judgment, or there's being alive with subtly held views or not subtly held views
Yeah.
of who we are and who the world,
Of
all
what
of
this
these,
is,
what this
what that
is,
is, what.
and that's what really just sheds on retreat.
Yeah.
And so it's not that you get anything, but these things that you may not even see shed, and you come into this, you could say maybe more sense of the sacredness of even just being alive, or of consciousness, or of
Everything.
everything. And that and for that to then become your abiding or your refuge
Yeah.
is very meaningful
And possible.
and possible.
I always
Yeah.
like to insist.
And possible.
For you.
It's possible. Yeah. Hmm. And you may still be the same weird person. which is
Which is
okay. I mean,
and there's
yeah.
there's flavor, there's diversity of presentation, manifestation,
I think it's
as it yeah,
I
beautiful.
think it's beautiful. Yeah. That's one of the views I think that gets let go of is people, I should be like this other person.
I must be a carbon copy of my teacher.
A carbon copy of my teacher. That's called, yeah, that's inauthenticity. And so that's, yeah.
Or I must be Shakyamuni Buddha, like exactly as he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not, even in the time of the Buddha, that is not how it was at all. You read what's available in the early texts. They had their distinct personalities, aptitudes, skills. Yeah.
There was that story of the there was a monk who was an arahant, and the Buddha had confirmed him as fully enlightened, and he was walking with some other monks, and they came to a rushing river, and this monk, who was the arahant, hiked up his robes in a very undignified way to cross and scamper across, and the monks went to the Buddha and said, this is very undignified. Is he really an arahant? And the Buddha said, oh, for 500 lifetimes, he was a monkey. So, so that's just his sort of
it's just his little
monkeyish way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, all of the practitioners and teachers I know very much are they're and this is how Shinzen frames it, for example, they're more themselves than they were before.
Yeah.
In a certain sense.
In a beautiful sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a very profound sense. What is it to, in Zen, they have this language. What is it to, be fully you?
Right.
And that's something that's both natural, but also like takes a lifetime to unfold. Yeah. Or to realize even it's very difficult to be ourselves. That's
Can be. Yeah.
For many people,
yeah.
it's difficult.
It was for me.
Because
it's still in some contexts.
This sense of I'm not enough, I think, is at the heart of it.
Or I'm not right.
I'm not right is at the heart of it. Yeah. And it's very deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goes right down to the depths, the deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
this is not enough,
Yeah, this
or
is not
this is
enough.
not enough,
This is not
or
enough.
this is not right.
That's
Or
how I see
this,
craving.
yeah.
That's feels more true in terms of how to understand the second noble truth, and then you can let go of that. And so,
Ah.
yes, yeah, and yeah, realize peace.
I think that's a good place to end it. I'm not sure for how long we've been recording.
Oh yeah, sure, great. I mean, that's efficient. But I don't have anything else to say unless you have anything else to ask.
No,
Great.
I think yeah, please check out North and Boundless Refuge. I'll put the link in the description of the video and on Spotify. Thank you all for listening. And would you like to say any concluding words?
Thank you. Goodbye.